So you see, money was not something you try to accumulate or impress people with. And I've had kids come in my office say, my father ruined my life when I was 21. What did he do? Gave me $1 million. I have to be a success. So these kids are totally screwed because they have to do something. They can't do something nice. Then the father would criticize them. And it rubs off. One of our kids, I wasn't enlightened when he called me. Dad, I need money for college tuition. I said, wait a minute. My father died. You got $60,000. He said, yeah, I gave it to a young man I met in Nepal so he could come here, go to college, and go home and help his people. See? Imagine your kid doing that. I mean, I always say, when I got that phone call, I said, you're not responsible. You're not paying his tuition. I mean, I wasn't so enlightened, but when people hear that story, they say, what a wonderful kid. Yeah. When I compare him to, I got $1 million and it ruined my life, yeah, he didn't let the money ruin his life. He went and did something nice. So I grew up with that kind of parenting, grandparents. My grandfather was a religious teacher in Russia who left there to survive because they were persecuting the Jews. So he became my teacher. And it was totally different. See, it wasn't, I'm a little bit of every religion because it wasn't here's ritual structure. It's, we sat down and we talked and we read and so, hey, God is my friend. And I didn't have to follow rules, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It was, yeah, I'm okay. And I have to say, I think Judaism was a favorable thing because you could talk to God and dialogue with God and debate what do you think these words mean? Because when I run into some Christians, they're in big trouble. Even guided imagery. I can't. Why? Close your eyes, Satan could take over. I said, you don't know the difference in God and Satan. But literally, that's a statement, see.
It is.
I've been called satanic and occult in Tupelo, Mississippi, see, by a minister there because he said you do guided imagery. And he and I had an interesting talk about the Bible because then he realized you're not as bad as I thought. I said, look, I'll come down there and I will give a lecture based only on the words of Jesus. And that's when it was like, okay, maybe you're not as bad as I thought, we'll talk. And I mean that literally, because there's the wisdom of his words, and so I'm always looking for what I call common themes, because when people say to me, what should I do? And I say, well, act as if, behave as if. Go to an AA meeting, they'll tell you fake it till you make it. You know, Jesus has his own way. I mean, every religion is telling you the same thing. And it's to rehearse and practice and be there. I also remember Maimonides, 900 years ago, saying, if people took as good care of their animals as they do, as good care of themselves as they do their animals, they'd have fewer illnesses, see. And I see this today when people say, my cat died of lung cancer, and my other cat's having breathing problems. And I say to the audience, what should you do? And they say, stop smoking. I said, no, this is Cat Fancy magazine. It has nothing to do with people. The woman finished with, Doug and I now smoke in the yard. We're not killing our cats anymore. And they published that letter in Cat Fancy magazine. I wrote and I said, it's okay to kill yourself? I mean, couldn't you put a word in? They never published my letter. But it just blows your mind, you know, that it's okay to kill yourself, but take good care of your pets. So I say to people, love yourself as much as you do your pets. And do we live longer if we have pets? Yes, those are studies too. But again, we're changing our chemistry. Right? When you pet a dog or cat, oxytocin, serotonin levels change, you're bonding. So, yeah, they all have survival, potential in them. And relationships and connections, I find, are what keep people alive. Just as women live longer than men with the same cancers, married men longer than single. Again, this is from an intellectual oncologist. Estrogen and progesterone must be protecting the women because they live longer than the men. I said, then sleeping with it must be protecting the husbands. I mean, that's what blows my mind about some doctors, that he could do a study on malignant melanoma, come up with the fact that women live longer than men, and base it on hormones, not on lifestyle and a whole host of other issues. But if we have connections, and they can be plants and goldfish, this has been done in nursing homes. Say, hey, here, take care of these. Here, we're decorating your room. The people who are told you have to take care live longer
Live
than
longer.
the people across the hall. Yeah. So, you know, in a sense, it's all these things that keep us going. And yes, I think because of how I grew up, I don't know, again, whether to tell you this, but
Why
people will
not?
believe it. But on the phone, one day, I was telling a friend of mine how busy I was. And she said, Bernie, why are you living this life? Now, her intention was to get me to slow down, say, not do so much. And I went into a trance over that phone call. And I said to her, my God, I got a sword in my hand and I'm killing people. I said, maybe that's why I'm a surgeon. And approximately a week or two later, I was on an airplane and spontaneously went into a trance. I was just sitting looking out the window. And the way I describe it, it's like watching a movie that you're in. And I was told by my Lord to go and kill the neighbor's daughter. And I said, why don't we kill him? No, I want to punish him for what he's doing. It was an argument over land. Go kill her. So I go and I look it over and I come back again. I say, I don't want to kill her. He said, if you don't kill her, I will kill you. I said, okay, then I'll go. And I go and I tell them I'm traveling through and could I stay there? And they let me in and I learned where her room is, and because I want to kill her when she's sleeping and not hurt her. And I go up to the room, open the door. Her dog, who I also made friends with, sees me, makes a little noise. So I just raise my sword and I kill him. And the sound of, splitting his head open wakens the young woman. And she turns, looks at me, and I chop her head off. And I'm not going to get into who she is, but she's part of my life now. That's why that face just, I sobbed for hours knowing who I killed. But I was so disturbed by all of it. But it reminded me also of people like Abraham and Jesus who, why the hell did they agree with God? Kill your son? Okay, we're going. I'm going to crucify you. I always said, hey, Jesus, he can walk on water, so what the hell's so hard about jumping off a cross, And I came across James Hillman's name 3 times in something I was reading. Called him up. He's a Jungian therapist. I said, can you help me? He said, fine, come on up here, which I thought was wonderful. So I drove up to where he lives in Connecticut. And I started telling him. He said, Bernie, you're not listening. I said, what do you mean? You're saying you're Lord, you're Lord. I said, so Lord of the Castle. He said, no, Bernie, it means more than that. It was like, oh, wow, what a whack in the head that was. Because I said to him, yeah, I keep questioning. And so what I learned was that, and I talked to God too. See, God said basically, you're a satellite dish, a remote control, and a television screen. And I said to God, I don't understand the old parables, and I still don't know what you're talking about. God said, Bernie, you have many channels available to you, many lords, you see. I give you a mind. It's like a remote control. Pick the channel. If you pick the right Lord, you'll live a very different life than, say, the kid who's told, here's $1 million, and money becomes his Lord. Then I give you a body like a screen to demonstrate what you're living. So I've really learned that what I'm here to demonstrate, and the only road to immortality is love. And, there are a lot of quotes from various books, but love is immortal. It makes all things immortal, but hate dies every minute. It's the land of the living and the land of the dead, and the bridge is love. The only survival, the only meaning. So that's what I try to do. And I'm not perfect at it. And, so I'm open to criticism from the wife and kids and everybody else, too. But we keep it balanced, the love, the humor. That's the key, that you're loved so you can listen to the criticism too. And I don't see that word as a bad word. If people are bothered by it, I say, okay, ask for feedback, or we can talk about your attitude. But I think those experiences have just affected me very deeply. And I really felt that I'm in this life to try to make up for the trouble and pain I caused in other lives because I didn't understand. Oh, and the resolution, see what I really learned, because Hillman said to me, go home and relive this experience. Because I also had an iridescent white cat show up in my dream, say, my name is Diamond. I said to Hillman, you know, I think the cat's name is Diamond, but people aren't pronouncing it right. He said, no, it's not Diamond, it's Diamond, D-A-I-M-O-N. It's your spirit. Go and talk to that cat. And of course, we had the house full of cats. So what I learned was, you see, by going back, I mean, my Lord said to me, why don't you kill the neighbor's daughter? I said, fine, I'm going. Then I feel a hand on my shoulder. He said, no, what you are going to do is talk to them, now that I know you have faith in me, and get them to come here so we can resolve this. So I go, and I'm spending all this time because they don't trust me. And I said to the young woman, I said, look, I will protect you. I will stand in front of you. I would die for you. Please come. And the father heard me, and he said, all right, I trust you. We'll go. So we show up, and I do stand in front of them. And my Lord says, what are you doing there? I'm trying to talk. I said, I want them to know they're safe. He said, of course they're safe. Just move over. And then he said, instead of our conflict over this land, I can see that you two, meaning me and the young lady, have a relationship with each other now. So you two will get married, and we'll give you this as a wedding present and solve the problem. And that was just, you say, you become one family. And that's what I've learned. Because I always say to kids who, you know, are you smart as a fifth grader? Test question, where are we all alike? I hold up a picture of one of us, and nobody knows which one of us it is. What's it a picture of?
It's a picture of all of us.
But exactly what part of us is it a picture of? Because it's a
The
picture.
love, the spark.
That's not a part of your anatomy.
Oh, no.
See, you know what fifth graders and third graders yell at you immediately? I say, I want to hold up a picture of one of you. Nobody can tell who it is. What's it a picture of? They yell, our hearts. Yeah. I mean it. It's amazing. The kids immediately know we're all the same inside. And I always say, as a surgeon, yeah, that impressed the hell out of me. So I always say to everybody, we're one family. We're all the same color inside. We're different outside, so we know who the hell we're feeding. And, you know,
Yeah.
people, if we were all identical, you wouldn't know who to make dinner for or who's your real kid. And who, you know. So, yeah, it's so intuitive for the kids. And they write me and say, I went home and I asked my mom and dad all the questions you asked us, and they're not very smart. It took them 15 minutes to figure out. Because I'll say things like, how would you introduce yourself to God? The best answer I ever heard was from a high school student. Say, tell God his replacement is here.
Oh,
And in all the years I've been asking that of hundreds and hundreds of people, only one man has ever said, I am God. And the people in the room, I said, yeah, he's right. That's what I'm looking for. That when you know you're part of the divine, so you say, hey, your kid is here, or it's you. You don't say it's me, or I'm a doctor. God says, come back when you know who you are. So I have all these questions.